I'm Shavaun Scott, and I've been a licensed psychotherapist for over 30 years. On this channel, I answer viewer questions with straight talk about everything related to psychology and relationships. If you enjoy this video, please like it and feel free to subscribe to my channel. Now, the most frequent question I'm asked is how to find a good therapist. I recently met a woman who was a survivor of a mass shooting, and she had actually gone to 8 different therapists before she found someone who was helpful to her. And that's a tragedy because it's a lot of energy to fill out the paperwork, make an appointment, arrange with your work schedule so you can get there. Tell your story just to find that this person isn't really right for me. So what do? You do an interview first. As an informed consumer, you should connect with multiple therapists in a free 15-minute phone call to ask some questions and make them explain how they would help you. I usually suggest you just tell a little bit about your story and then let them do most of the talking. How do they explain what they would do? But people still often say, I don't even know where to start. There are dozens of kinds of therapy and all kinds of different therapists. And this is true. The field is very jargon heavy. So if I were to tell you that I practice interpersonal neurobiology, dialectical behavioral therapy, and internal family systems, the average person doesn't have a clue what I'm talking about. So I think it's very important that therapists not use jargon when they're explaining how they work with people. I think the best therapists are trans-theoretical. Truly excellent therapists can pull from a variety of theories and techniques and then blend those things into something that is the best fit for each client. So everybody is getting something customized. I'm always cautious of people who have one template and everybody that they see gets the exact same thing, because nothing works for everyone, and we always need to adapt to the needs of the client. Some of the common complaints people have is they say the therapist was so passive, all they did was smile and nod. They don't feel like they're getting any helpful information or helpful advice on what they can do different. And then often they feel that the therapists are so focused on their childhood and so focused on the past that they're not able to get any practical help about things that are happening for them right now. So you want to talk with the therapist in advance and ask them to use very plain language and explain exactly how they're going to help you and how they see your problem. Now, what we can expect from therapy is that we can come to understand our emotions, we can learn to regulate our emotions, we can develop coping skills, and gain an awareness of patterns, things we may be doing over and over that are not helpful, that make our life hard. We can see new options and choices and also heal from trauma. And I think a therapist brings intelligence, insight, empathy, and creativity to the table. Now, another thing you'll want to consider is this clinician licensed by a regulatory agency in the state where they're practicing? Being a licensed clinician does not necessarily mean that you're an excellent therapist or that you're gifted, but it does mean that they've had a regulated core education with thousands of hours of supervised experience after that, and they've passed a licensing exam, which also shows that they understand high standards of ethics. So a license protects the consumer, and if there's a therapist who has complaints against them, the licensing board can take away their license to practice. So it's just foundational. Another thing that we hope with a license is that the therapist has developed a good ability as a diagnostician, because if a diagnosis is flawed, the treatment is going to be flawed. For an example, we can look at depression. There are a lot of things that look like depression, but they all come from different reasons. So you can have a person with a narcissistic personality disorder who's not getting the accolades that they think they're entitled to, and they become depressed. Now, that's not a biological illness, that's a personality factor. A person with bipolar disorder may have alternating periods of depression and anxiety, agitation, or elevated mood, and that person needs a very specific treatment plan and very specific medication. A person with major depressive disorder has a biological illness that's very likely to respond very well to antidepressant medication along with cognitive behavioral therapy. But early schizophrenia can look like depression, and so can early dementia. And this is why diagnosis is so important. The clinician really needs to understand what the problem is before they develop a treatment plan. And sadly, not all clinicians are equally gifted in this. Now, decades of research have shown consistently that the most important factor in whether therapy is helpful or not is something called resonance, therapeutic alliance, and I describe it as that heart-to-heart connection that we have with another person. The therapist gets us, they're empathic. And when we have that kind of resonance, we feel understood, we feel comfortable, we feel hopeful, and therapy then is effective and helpful because it really doesn't matter what the techniques are. If there's not that resonance and not that heart-to-heart connection, it's not going to be helpful. So when I go to therapy, which therapists do because we believe it's helpful, I want someone that gets me, someone who's active, someone who gives feedback, and someone who uses a variety of techniques. So thank you for checking in. And again, if this is helpful, please like it and subscribe to my channel. Also, if you'd like to send me questions for future videos, my email contact is in the notes.